all the time. Okay, so today we're going to start right in on a exercise. Before we do, though, I'd like you to go to your chat box and let's make sure we're all on the same page on a couple of these basics that we've been learning from this chapter. So in the chat box, explain just in general a few words. You don't have to give a perfect definition, but kind of just what's your idea of what it means by Roth? So we've mostly been talking about the Roth IRA. So what is the Roth? Why is it different? We compare it to the Roth IRA versus the traditional IRA. And I spent some time on Monday, I think it was, our first class time going over this. But it's confusing. Like even, it was kind of funny, my wife this morning, there's a real thing that I'm trying to do with our retirement plan because the match was suspended and I wanted to do a Roth, and my wife is like, what's a Roth IRA? And I'm like, haven't you taken my personal finance class basically and listened to me for the last 10 years? But so it's pretty easy for this to come in and out. So the more we do some repetition with it and the more you get comfortable, at least for this, yes, it's true that you'll probably forget about this when you guys enter the workforce. Some of you at different times, some of you might be next year, some of you might be 3 or 4 years from now. And so again, this is the importance of having a physical copy of this, that you move from apartment to apartment, you move from your house, you pull it off the shelf and like, oh, I know we learned about the Roth at one point in time. What was that again? And you can kind of refresh your memory. So, all right, so we've got some people making some comments on taxes, and that's correct, but not specific enough. So tax-free compared, Roth is generally not taxed, tax advantages, it's pre-taxed. Okay, so nobody has the right answer yet, or the most complete answer. You're all correct that there's tax advantages. The key with the Roth is, when do you get the tax advantage? When do you get it? It's the timing that is the distinguishing factor. So on the chat box, when do you get it? So taxed at the beginning, but not at the end. Good, Rachel, you nailed it. So nice job. So with the regular Roth IRA, you have the tax benefit now. And so you won't get taxed on your current income up to the amount that you put into the investment. With the Roth IRA, you're going to pay with after-tax dollars. So basically you pay your, get your paycheck and then go spend it on an investment, and you can have it tagged with a Roth coat. So that's at the end. So again, real important here, what is the distinction? What's the cookie jar versus the coat? Cookie jar versus coat. Let's see if I can do a coat here. Oop, not too bad. Oop, there's a collar maybe. Oop, this is where I struggle. Oh, maybe that's a logo or insignia there. So what is the cookie jar? Need to know this for the final, need to know this for this chapter and really last chapter. So cookie jar versus coat. What is the cookie jar? Coat protects your jar. Good, Jeffrey. So what is the jar, or what is the cookies in the jar? I guess let's make sure we're distinct with that. What is the jar? Market in the government. Okay, good, Mackenzie. In terms of the market is related to the jar and the government is related to the coat. That is correct. Small, medium, large, and international is part of the cookies, right? So the cookie jar is your portfolio, if we use a fancy name. This is your, your retirement money. all of it. So this is your real retirement money, is the jar. It's your wealth is another way to do it, your retirement wealth. So when we do the consumer equity of what you own minus what you owe, if you're debt free, you owe nothing. And so this is the money that you've been tucking away is in the jars. And then as Xavier was highlighting there, we have a certain composition of the jar of our wealth that Dave Ramsey's recommending and that I support. And that is to do 25% in small cap, 25% in mid cap, 25% of your wealth in large cap, and 25% in international. And so if you've got $100,000 in retirement savings so far, all that means is that you have $25,000 of small cap funds. You have $25,000 of large cap funds. You have $25,000 of mid cap funds. You have $25,000 of international. You see how we're spreading out our eggs so that they're not all in one basket. We're literally probably have easily over 1,000 companies that we own by owning mutual funds spread out among different risk classes. So the small companies are a little riskier than the large cap companies. These are the big old dinosaur companies that you got, all the names that you know, those are those. So you've got your money spread out into a little bit more risky stuff, a little less risky stuff, international, 25%, 25%, 25%, 25%. Okay, 10-second pause for questions there. Go back into the rooms. So I'm gonna go back to sharing this screen here. All right, so hopefully you saw some of what was started here. So we got 15% of your income, and what we have is these, let me get my gizmo going here. So these are all the information about each individual. So we've got Joe here who will take advantage of the company match, which is 5% of the salary, and then put the rest into the Roth IRA. So from the videos, Dave had a strategy. So we basically have 15% of your money going into the some retirement investments. So the 401k is the commonly used one for most corporations. Like a lot of you guys will have 401ks, but it's not a Roth 401k. And so we'd like to get most of our dollars into Roth when we can. And so for each one of these people, we're going to give them advice on how to set up their retirement. So with a $40,000, we'll do this first one together. With a $40,000 salary, let me go to the chat box in general. What is 15% of 40,000? Go to the chat box. Maybe if you guys have a regular calculator, of course you can use your computer, whatever you have at your, or you can do it in your head if you want. That would be a little bit. All right, so good. We got 6,000 bucks. So 6,000 bucks is the grand total. So I think the best way to do this exercise is to actually start on this side here, and your total annual investment is going to be 6,000 bucks. So we're going to put 6,000 bucks, and now the question is, where do we put it? So the company is matching dollar for dollar up to 5%, which is what I used to get with Auto University, by the way, but that went away now with the COVID thing, or at least it's suspended. So what it means, or how you interpret that, is that if I put 5% of my income into the 401k, the company's going to put basically another 5% of my income too. So on the chat box, what is 5% of $4,000? 2,000. Good, Jeffrey. So we're going to have $2,000, which is 5%, that I'm going to invest in the 401k. And then that would leave $4,000 to put into the Roth. And so with each one of these exercises, the first step in the sequence is to take the match when you can, and then put the rest into a Roth. Now, the one thing to be aware of is that the Roth has its maximum. So I think we use, let me see here. For this exercise, we're going to just assume the $5,000 cap. Oh yeah, I guess they don't, I guess I do usually give this to the class. Apparently they don't tell you that here. So we could use today, the match is actually higher than what it is before. So right now, let's just say that the match caps out at 5,000. Not the match, I'm sorry, the Roth IRA capped out at $5,000. You'll see how that comes into play later. What it means is that the most that you can, the biggest coat that you can put on an IRA that's allowed by the government. Remember, as Rachel pointed out, the government is who sets the rules with the amount of tax breaks that you can get, because they ultimately need tax dollars too. And so the most that an individual can put in is $5,000. Now, if you're a married couple, you can put in $10,000. So it's per person $5,000, because we do have like Tyler and Megan here and David and Brittany. All right, any questions with the overview? I'm going to split you back up into groups so that you can work through this. Any questions for just the overall group or how to do it? So one thing I might point out here is you put, for Melissa, the second one, you put in $1 and the company puts in $2. Down here, this is how you read this ratio. For Brandon, you put in $2, so you were always the first person. You put in $2, the company puts in $1. So there's all kinds of different matching up to the 6%, and then you're going to play that game each one. So start with the total investment and work through the problem. Okay, welcome back here. So I wanted to do for sure one of the case studies. And we'll see how much time we got here. There's a couple of them I'd like to do to kind of wrap up this section. So if you guys go to your case studies now, and let me see here if I can get X out of this. All right, here we go. So let's see, I think Alex and Selena. I want to do Crystal's retirement goal first, since we just did this activity. All right, so Crystal's retirement goal. And so Crystal's 47 years old and single. She's a high school principal making $75,000 a year. She currently owns a 401k valued at $85,000. Crystal would like to retire at age 65 with $1.2 million in her retirement nest egg. She plans to contribute $12,000 a year to her retirement fund, growing at 10%. So question number one, will Crystal reach her goal? Justify your answer and use the foundation's calculator. So for this one, we're going to kind of toggle back and forth between our retirement calculator. So we come in here, go into our tools. And And so starting balance, how much was in, let me go to the chat box. You guys help me out with filling this in. I'll type in the numbers, but you chat box me, what is her starting balance? Okay, chat box, let me open it up. 85,000, good. Okay, so 85,000 and 10%. So 85,000, she's earning 10%, which sounds reasonable. How much is she planning to contribute monthly, given the problem? It's 12,000, but that's per year. So what do we want to plug in per month? Good, 1,000. So 1,000 per month. And then how many years does she got left? So yeah, we got 18 years to retirement by age 65. And so then we're wondering how many in 18 years, what's her retirement going to be worth? And we click the results, 1.15 million. So the good news is she's a millionaire. Did she reach her goal? On the chat box first, I guess. No, yeah, technically no. All right, so go ahead and answer that. So will she reach her goal? Justify your answer. That was this information. She gets up to 1.15 million. So I'm going to go back. Here was the terms. So number two, if she won't reach her goal, what needs to change in order to reach her goal? So go to the chat box on this. What needs to change to reach her goal? Better growth on their investment. That's one way, you're right. So let me get my pen out here. So if we could play around with the calculator, and if she got 12% or 13%, she could reach her goal that way. Good, Jeffrey. No coffee or soda. We start hitting the coffee soda buttons if she gives up, which basically you're saying she'd need to contribute more than $1,000 with that thing, giving up coffee or soda. Excuse me. That would get her where she needs to go. And then there's one more answer. What else could she do to get her goal if it stayed at 10% and stayed at $1,000? So no more contributions, no more higher rate. More years, yeah. So we could lengthen the number of years. So if we change this variable to 20, then that would also increase. So those are the only three variables. And so now my question to you is, which one should it be? Should it be the interest rate, the amount contributed, or the number of years? What would be the thing that you think would be best for her to change? Maybe everybody should go to the chat box and kind of put like, which one do you think? So years or the interest rate? So longer years or the interest rate. Let me get a couple more people. Thank you, Jeffrey. So a few extra months, probably be the easiest. Adding years. Increase from 12,000 to 13,000, Xavier says. So basically, Xavier, I assume you're saying increased contributions. More years. Okay, so it looks like just from the people who've put in, years was pretty popular. So we wait to do it. I don't think that's the best answer. So now that you know, at least your professor says, I don't think that's the best answer, I want you to think why. why, when from a retirement planning standpoint, would adding more years to the end, like increasing it to 20 years or 22 years or whatever, why is that not a very good answer in terms of retirement planning? Less time to use, would have to wait longer to retire. That's true. And it's so funny because you guys as young people don't even think about this. Young, healthy, ready to work. Do we know what we're going to be, what physical condition we're going to be in by the time we get to age 65, 64? Do we, can we predict that 10 years from now we won't come down with a bad case of COVID or something else? Not really, right? And so that's the problem with the more years thing. Just quickly on the interest rate's really out of our control, right? We're already have it in the most risky thing using diversification. That's probably the best way, best prediction. We can't just like make up a number, like pretend we can earn 12% when we're really realistically. So that's very external to us. And so the thing that you have now is to seize the day. You guys, thumbs up. Have you heard of carpe diem? Carpe diem. It's a Latin phrase, seize the day, like seize now. And what you can do now is to make some concessions, maybe on coffee or soda, as Jeffrey was, and ramp up that contribution level. So if we do that, maybe a couple $100 more per month, and we get to our level, right? And I know that hurts because it's less consumption today, but I think that's the best advice. All right, well, we'll call class there.